Welcome to the Gigs Podcast. I'm your host, Nikki Sanz, pilot and CEO and founder of Gigs, the professional career platform for the live event industry. But actually, I'm gonna quit that job and truly just be a pilot full-time because I just love the sky, man. I think it's time to really learn my true calling. This is the thing that makes it go. This is the steering wheel. This is how you know if the brakes are working. And this is the rudder. They said, just know the basics and get up in the sky. It'll fly itself. Today, we are taking you behind the scenes and into the skies with TrueSkies Aviation Group. We're flying with the co-founders of this powerhouse team, David Young and Christian Meiley, whose paths from rock tours and rocket launches have landed them in the cockpit of one of the most respected names in private air travel. So if you've ever wondered what really goes into chartering private jets for A-listers, building a transparent aviation business, or launching a company that can fly VIP-configured 757s coast to coast, this one's for you. So right now, we are standing in Atlantic Aviation. It's the private hangar at the BNA Airport in Nashville, Tennessee. We're about to go meet up with David and Christian. We're gonna board the Boeing 757 jet. We're gonna have a podcast in the air. And I'm so excited to take you guys with us. All right, we are here with co-founder and CEO David Young of TrueSkies Aviation Group, and this is the launch.
It's the launch of TrueSkies Aviation officially. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
It's a project, in terms of my aviation experience, 22 years in the works, but music management and label work, we're more like 30 plus. So it's been a long time coming.
What are we doing today?
Well, we're in a hangar in Nashville, BNA Airport, Atlantic Aviation.
Yep.
And we're about to board a VIP-configured 757.
So why that plane?
It's due to a partnership we have with the airline to get them, more business in our spaces in on-demand charter.
Got it.
And so we formed a really unique partnership with them where we have agency relationships. So we're kind of promoting them, they're promoting us, and we're getting out there.
All right. So where are you guys based?
So we have offices in California, New York, Sao Paulo, and our operational headquarters in Columbus, where we're going today.
We're going to Columbus today.
We're going to Columbus.
So we'll be doing a podcast on the flight, in the air, talking about you guys. This is so cool.
Pretty fun.
What a special experience.
Yes,
Thank you.
of course.
So last night, we had about 100 people in here for an event with tour managers, production managers, artist managers, business managers, to really celebrate y'all's launch and see what you guys can do. So we're going to get into it, but what is the big takeaway that you had maybe from last night?
It's a people business, it's a service business, and it could seem highfalutin and luxurious, but at the end of the day, it's just moving people around and luxury and saving people time and doing it safely.
And doing it safely.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, let's get on this plane.
I love it.
All
Let's do
right. We are standing aboard a Boeing 757 that a lot of tours with large crews can charter out so that they can avoid commercial flying. Mic check. Ladies and gentlemen, please take your seats and fasten your seatbelts. By the way, posting jobs on Gigs is free. So if you are hiring in the live event industry, any backstage jobs, post on Gigs for free and find thousands of people in your area that are ready and vetted and amazing and qualified to work. Post on Gigs today. Thank you. Okay. All right, we are in the air now, and we're acting like we've never been on a private jet because we've never been on a private jet. So we're treating ourselves, okay? We're getting used to this life. And we're going to talk about planes. Air Force One is technically a custom Boeing 747. Estimated value, how much do you think Air Force One is worth?
47 shell is $250 million. To outfit it, it's probably about a $3 billion plane, I'd say.
$4 billion.
Ooh, did you look that one up?
Yeah, I just know it.
Okay, all right. What other facts?
Okay, here we go.
All right.
Let's see. A pre-owned Boeing 757 like this one.
Okay.
How much?
Depending on total time, inspection cycle. You're probably talking, I'd say your average buy price, 15 million.
Dude, yeah.
Million?
10 to 30. He's like almost 2 for 2. Okay. Here we go. How much annually does private aviation add to the U.S. economy?
Oh, that's a good question. People don't realize that it's a significant amount. Think about all the people that were helping us over the last 2 days. I would say roughly $20 billion.
Increase that by $130 billion.
$150 billion.
Private aviation adds over $150 billion annually to the U.S. economy. And most of it's catering, by the way.
Christian's biggest pet peeve.
Terms of the seats remain seated for the remainder of the flight. Thank you.
Bruh. Okay, so you said you usually like to just pass out. You don't love flying. How do you feel right now?
Probably a little bit similar to you, nauseous, very anxious. They have great medications that help with those types of things.
True or false? Most private jet cabins are pressurized at lower altitudes, so passengers feel less fatigued on commercial flights.
Very true.
Why is that?
So think about right now we're, in theory, we should be cruising around 30 to 35,000 feet in the air. If we're physically at that, we wouldn't be able to breathe. So typically a cabin is anywhere between 5,000 and under 8,000 in terms of what it feels like in terms of altitude. And a lot of the newer business jets, like the G650, actually makes you feel that you're about 2,000 altitude. So what that actually does is it allows you, when you fly 10, 12 hours, a lot more rested because of the oxygen flow.
Well, that's so cool. Rapid fire, what's your favorite plane?
Mid-size Phenom 300, large cabin, I would say the Global 7500.
What's your favorite commercial airline to fly?
My favorite commercial airline to fly is United.
Delta. Really? It's
Yes.
United. I'm shocked by that. Wait, tell me why.
I am based out of New York. Newark is my home airport. Newark is one of the hubs for United, so they have the highest dispatch rate. So I'm almost guaranteed, one, to go anywhere nonstop, anywhere in the world.
Oh.
Because of it being their hub. And two, because it's their hub, they need to have a high dispatch rate out of that so that their secondary markets don't get affected by it. It's the same thing with Delta in Atlanta.
It's really sad because Delta's my fave, but Delta basically doesn't go to Nashville. Nashville loves Southwest, so it's really brutal, man. Favorite snack on a plane?
Ooh, favorite snack on a plane. Now, this might have changed because of some health things, but Sour Patch Kids.
Dude.
And they also help with anxiety.
Why?
Because the sour takes your mind away from the different things that are going on, especially if you don't like sour candy.
Oh my gosh.
But I love it.
Remember Warheads?
Oh, yes.
Maybe if you get nervous on flights, you just need to do Warheads.
Warheads and Sour Patch
Just
Kids.
forget because you're in misery. What's your drink on a plane?
My drink on a plane is Saratoga sparkling water. I'm a spicy water guy.
Spicy water. I like my water spicy.
Yes.
Cheers.
Cheers, Nikki.
Thank you, sir. Wow. Okay, here we go. I'm going to be reclining now. If I can figure out how this chair works. How is everyone else reclined on a Boeing 757? Oh! Yo, leg rest? Help me! Everyone here says that I fit in really well. Fasten your seatbelts. Follow us for more tips on how to recline your seat. We are now sitting down in the Boeing 757 with David Young, co-founder and CEO of TrueSkies Aviation Group. Before private jets, David managed platinum-selling bands like Dishwalla and worked with many artists, including Green Day, Rihanna, Calvin Harris, Kendrick Lamar, Linkin Park, and countless global touring acts and complex aviation logistics. He also led entertainment at Sentient Jet, founded Young Jets, and sold the company and served on the board of Victor Private Jets. From music to mobility to the skies, David brings decades of experience moving high-profile clients around the world. David, welcome to the Gigs Podcast.
Welcome, Nikki.
This is kind of a first. Doing a podcast on a plane.
Yeah.
This is fun.
It's a big idea.
I want to start...
A big jet.
Big jet. How many does this seat again?
78. It's a VIP configured 757.
So to start, you have such an interesting career. You started managing bands. So I want to know, do you enjoy managing bands or managing companies?
To me, they're one and the same. I think I got my chops to run a company or to run companies and start up new ideas from scratch from managing bands. You know, manager is the CEO of a band, right? And you're a liaison for every aspect of the artist's career. I was also creatively involved. I was an ASCAP songwriter and platinum album sales and designed album covers, helped with video treatments. So,
And you were a drummer.
yeah. Yep, I was.
You did it all, man.
To the chagrin of my family, my my mom as a kid, but yeah.
Entrepreneur at heart. You started out as a drummer, managed bands. I want to get into how you got into management in the first place.
Well, I grew up as a musician, and as soon as I finished school from San Diego with a degree in advertising and marketing, basically couch surfed at out of college and got a job at MCA Records. After about 3 years of doing that, I decided I want to be more involved in the creative side. And I found a band in my hometown and developed them, got them a deal with A&M. Their second single was the most played rock song of the year.
What was it?
Called Counting Blue Cars. A band called Dishwalla. That was their big hit.
What year was that?
96 was the big hit. Yeah.
That was the year I was born. Hell
There you
yeah.
go.
96,
All right.
baby. What is the process like of developing a band and then also getting them signed?
Probably it's different for everybody, but for me, it was really just learning to get them to trust me as an advisor. For those guys, I said, we're not even going to focus on LA and the music industry. I don't want to hear about that. We'll make you the biggest band in your hometown. And given that it was just 2 hours away in Santa Barbara, we'll export that to Los Angeles when the time's right. And we did exactly that plan. It was the back of a napkin. We executed it, got a deal with A&M Records. And it was the beginning of a long career in artist management. I did it for 10 years plus. I had bands on A&M, Maverick, Warner, a couple indies.
So being an artist manager, I'm sure, especially in the early days with the bands, you're touring too. So were you in vans? Were you in a bus? Were you flying?
Mostly vans and then buses and a few flights. It's a situation with a band where they have to be in two places at once. 2 radio shows in one day, 2 commitments that you can't get out of, a state fair you can't cancel. That's where really it started to connect the dots with me, that there was such a tool of efficiency.
Flying private, then you get to avoid all the TSA long lines, the check-in, the waiting, the delays. Feels like there's just so much more freedom, but also so much unknown about flying private because it feels so unreachable. I guess when you started flying private with the bands, what was the first few feelings of like, oh my God, we got to do this all the time?
Yeah, the sheer time saving. What's an hour of your day worth? If you're in demand, it's worth a lot. The price point can seem a little outrageous sometimes when you justify it as on a business case. And it was just like making sense of that on the artist side.
So which artists ultimately really changed the trajectory of your career?
A band called Summer Camp on Maverick, and we had the biggest, bidding war of the year, and signed a big publishing deal. And a band called Abandoned Pools that Tommy Walter split off from the Eels, and it was a lot of fun. A band called Left Front Tire, and now the singer works for me and Christian at TrueSkies.
You're kidding?
Yeah, Chip. Exactly.
How many years later?
Shout out, Chip. Several. Many.
Okay, so you're managing bands, you're your own CEO, you're your own entrepreneur. Yeah. What then made you start your first company?
Outside of management? Mm-hmm. Actually, I did something in between. I got weirdly into transportation because we were watching cars on the road in Los Angeles, and there were no environmental solutions. The Prius was just out for a year or two, but it was small. The Tesla was we knew the Roadster was being built. We didn't know much about it. So under a cloak of secrecy, the guys from, SpaceX were starting a car company. And so we put natural gas SUVs on the road, and our clientele were A-list celebrities who wanted to show up at awards and in style with a big car with 90% less tailpipe emissions. So I was both transportation innovator.
Wow.
This company it's called Evo, tied still to my base, which was entertainment.
Where did the passion for climate and sustainability come from for you?
Practical sense, it makes sense. I still consult with hydrogen electric aircraft companies and vertical takeoff and landing, which is electric jets and flying cars, essentially. Like very interested in all that stuff. Yeah, it's coming.
You said flying cars.
It's coming, Nikki. It's at your doorstep soon. Yeah, but I've always had a love for doing your part, and not because it's fashionable, trendy, because it's the right thing to do.
That's so insane. I just drove the Tesla for the first time, and it drove me.
Yep.
And so, even processing that is the coolest thing. So I just want to know what stop signs look like in the air. You know what I mean? Anyways, all right, we're going to move on from that. Evo, very, very cool. You're still in entertainment. You're branching off into transportation. What brought you into aviation?
An opportunity to kind of take it to the next level. I had an opportunity to kind of use my contacts in this space for transportation solutions for entertainers. And we were absorbed in a big roll-up. And then I became the head of entertainment for a group called Sentient Jet that at the time was the biggest jet brokerage in the world.
Wow.
So, running the entertainment for that company, I got a feel for what I could do on my own. So when the timing was right and kind of this post-market crash. Interesting fact, in 2009-10, when the bottom fell out of the financial crisis, the entertainers were still flying. So if you look at Live Nation's numbers during the financial crisis, they went up, not down.
Really?
Yeah, absolutely. So try to pry a private jet out of the hands of a global superstar, it's not going to happen. They kept flying that way because it's just the efficiency is unbeatable. My book of business kept going through the dark years, and it became really clear to me that I could start my own business, and I left equitably to start Young Jets.
What does it mean to charter private aviation?
Yeah, well, a broker is an advisor between the client's demand and the supply of the jet operators. So we work with a list of vetted operators globally. They have to meet the right safety standards through independent audits. We're that go-between, that trusted advisory source. We help find the aircraft, negotiate the deals, work out the logistics, everything from, hey, I need to get somewhere on a private jet, to final landing and invoice on the back end.
And you guys know what your clients really care about, and then how to really treat them and cater the experience to them and communicate that to then the jets.
Absolutely.
So you're at Young Jets.
Yep.
What happens next?
We had a wild ride for about 3.5 years, and I didn't anticipate selling the company, but I got an offer I couldn't refuse to be a part of a company that was attempting to be on the forefront of digitization of private aviation. So a lot of companies, even today, are promising to be the Uber of flying private.
Right.
It wasn't exactly that, but it was a step towards that direction. So I helped build out their North American business as their beachhead acquisition in North America. We ran a digital brokerage, if you will.
And then you ended up managing on the board of this company?
Absolutely, yeah. With some pretty massive investments at the time from British Petroleum and a green initiative that looping back into sustainable alternative fuel, which we're also adopting with TrueSkies. So yeah.
And cool that you could blend your passions of sustainability into
Absolutely.
there. Years later, you start TrueSkies Aviation. What was the problem that you guys wanted to address?
There's a few problems that, over the last 5 years or so, based on recent history with the pandemic, of demand going way up, tripling actually, supply shrinking due to consolidation and some of the smaller mom and pop operators that didn't make it through the initial stages of the pandemic. So you've got this pricing surge, demand's down, and then out of that, the market softened a bit. But a lot of brokers and operators kept their prices high artificially. Yeah. Because they could get them. We saw a need to come in there and have a pricing transparency model. So we basically, and especially for our reserve program members, have a funds on a deposit program where everything from that point on is just kind of a cost plus model. Everything's transparent, wholesale plus our margin. We divulge what our margin is. The more you fly, the less you pay our services. And it takes the opaqueness out of the business and takes a lot of the mystery out of the business. And then in terms of mechanical recovery, which is an issue, I think 7% of aircraft have an issue launching on time, one way or the other. It could be weather, it could be a lot of different things. But,
I hear that.
Yeah. And so we wanted to have some pricing controls around that, because if you really get into it, you have to replace an aircraft. There is definitely additional time and additional cost potentially involved in flying in a new jet last minute. So we've come up with a program called TS Trip Protection. It's to basically insure against mechanical recovery.
Yeah.
That you never pay more and you're recovered as soon as possible. We have a whole separate company. The way we vertically integrated our business, you're flying a private jet, you expect everything to be on time, everything to go on schedule, and for your costs not to be increased at all. One of the reasons behind starting TrueSkies is better dispatch reliability. The pricing control with our reserve program, the cost plus transparency, and then just really becoming, a great people business is something I think is kind of missing in the space. It's not absent entirely, but it's really easy to stand up a jet brokerage from your bedroom and put a website up with AI in 15 minutes and call yourself a jet broker. But our team's been doing it for 50 years now, and we tend to know what we're talking about.
Are people paying hourly for this, for a plane? How does that work?
Yeah, it's based on the typical jet charter is chartered or rented, if you want to call it that, on a 2-hour-a-day minimum basis.
Got it.
So depending on what the mission is, if you're going one way to Columbus like we are today versus going out to Chicago for business and back, or going to a second home, or taking a band on tour every day, different stops along the way, different models kind of come into play. So the 2-hour-a-day minimum is the baseline.
Got it.
If an aircraft is flying, say, 6 hours in 3 days, it's met its minimums. If it's flying 2.5 hours in 6 days, you're still paying for those 6 days.
Yeah.
But it's just the pricing efficiencies and having a trusted broker to kind of understand how to make that work.
Yeah.
To bring the most value to your client is a big piece of the art of doing what we do.
I think that percentage is crazy. About only 7% private aren't on time, because I think that's something that tour managers should know. That, all right, if you have a harsh deadline, you're doing a national tour, you have a big crew of 75 people, you got to get somewhere immediately. You can't wait.
So the last thing you want is to be worrying about, is this going to cost the tour anymore? Are we going over budget? Where's our replacement aircraft coming from? Who's working on it in the middle of the night? So that's why we work closely, horizontally integrated with a company that does nothing but mechanical recovery programs for us. Yeah.
So your tagline is, the truth is out there. So you talked a little bit about transparency, and that's like one of the solutions of TrueSkies. So what does transparency really mean for how you guys handle it?
It starts with, bringing on the right people who have integrity, being a trusted advisor, building trust with your clientele. It's definitely a marathon, not a sprint. There are folks who might take this as a more transactional business. It's a relationship business. The transaction is in that relationship long term.
How do you win that trust?
Patience, integrity, and being a good communicator.
Yeah, because you're working with executives, you're working with entertainment, you're working with A-listers. So what's changed most in private aviation in the last 10 years? And what do you foresee changing in the next 10 years?
I think in the private aviation business, especially 135s, and I probably say the same for the airlines in 120 or 121, and that's the difference, is 135 is executive aircraft, 19 passengers and under, your Gulfstreams, your Bombardiers, Challengers and Global Expresses, and then your airliners like we're on now, and that's 121.
A lot of this is going over my head.
It's okay. This is why we're on a podcast, Nikki.
Yeah. We're learning.
We're educating. Yeah. So I think in the last 10 years, you've seen a consolidation of companies. I think there's a move towards better transparency and actual solutions.
Yeah.
I mentioned earlier, sustainable alternative fuel known as SAF is a real thing. You can fly a jet across the country without using petroleum. It's just a supply problem at the moment. It's kind of expensive, but it can be done. It has been done. It's been done all the time. That's coming. Electrification of aviation is coming. Hybrid electric cars, same model, hybrid electric jets. You'll see them first in regional airlines.
Wow.
It makes kind of the most sense. They're very fuel intensive missions that take off, plateau for a minute, and come back down, an hour later. On the transparency side, there are rules in place. Now, back in the day, you didn't need to actually divulge who the operator of the jet was before signature. Now you do. There are safety protocols in place that didn't exist before, so safety is getting better. I would say those are the kind of the pillars.
Can you tell a story about when you guys really solved a big problem with your airline?
Yeah, well, I've definitely pulled artists out of war-torn near riots after a show collapsed due to a promoter, not the stage, but the promotion. And then, I had to pull a pop star out of was about to be a riot, an African nation, to be unnamed. Okay. I've flown tuxedo for a hip hop mogul who had to attend a presidential state dinner in a Central American country. I've flown dogs for a pop star who was terribly homesick across the country. So some interesting things that, keep the show on the road, really.
How many dogs?
3.
3 dogs in a private plane.
Yeah.
Just to make them feel happier.
Yep.
I mean, I want to know who that is. You can't tell me.
Yep.
I want to get it out of you.
Nope.
That's crazy. So the number one thing on people's mind is like, well, it's not even on the table. The costs are too high or whatever it is. But what is the ROI for chartering private versus commercial?
I always ask my clients who have, artists they're looking after, what does that artist make an hour? You don't have to tell me, but just think about it. Calculate what is that hourly rate for your artist and what's their time worth? The ROI is their time back. It's a time machine.
Yeah.
So anytime you can save hours in commute, transport, the efficiencies of private aviation are unmatched. Start with that baseline. What is your time worth and how do you get that time back? And the only way you could possibly approach buying that time back is really flying private.
Wow.
More time with the family, more time with your fans, more time with your loved ones, more time on other projects, making other music.
That is too cool. Thank you so much.
Pleasure to be here and for the launch of TrueSkies Aviation Group.
It's so awesome. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Now we have Christian Meiley, co-founder and COO of TrueSkies Aviation Group. Christian grew up watching NASA launches and built Meiley Aviation in 2020 to bring transparency and care to private air travel. At TrueSkies, he handles operations, safety, and elite service for executives, entertainers, and private clients. Christian, welcome to the Gigs Podcast.
Thank you for having me, Nikki.
So excited. This is just so fun. I want to start with the moment for you that made you know, I got to get into aviation?
There's a few points in my life that aviation kind of took a grasp on me. And I think one of the more notable ones was early on my uncle Kevin. He's not an actual uncle, but he's a really close friend of the family.
Yeah.
And I had the opportunity to go to Cape Canaveral, where NASA does their launches. So I had the pleasure of watching 5 launches when I was a child with my family. Life goes on and certain things transpire. I went to university. I thought my career path might have been something in marketing or something a little bit different. And it wasn't until, I kind of got into the entertainment business. I was buying charter for clients, and that's really kind of what intrigued me. And it wasn't until I started to fly private that I got the itch to actually start learning about the industry, researching the industry, and that's, I think, really where I got hooked. So early on is when I had my eye on it, but it wasn't until I actually got onto a Gulfstream that I said, I think this is for me.
Okay, real quick on the NASA launch. Were they all successful taking off?
It's a really good question, Nikki. And the reason I say that is I remember the 5th launch, and the 5th launch specifically.
Yeah.
Is our family actually stayed there for about 10 days waiting for the aircraft to take off. And because of weather, I actually didn't see that 5th launch. Yeah. And it's the same thing in private aviation. We unfortunately can't control the weather, and it's one of the few things that we need to be wary of.
Yeah. That is, would you look at that? Look how you tied that in.
Yeah.
All right. So you go into entertainment. What were you doing in the entertainment side?
Yeah. So in the entertainment side, in college, I was part of a group of young guys who started bringing in talent into Providence, Rhode Island, and Boston, Massachusetts.
Cool.
And through doing that type of work, post-college, we worked with a lot of people in the EDM world, which was kind of up and coming at the time, as well as some of the larger hip-hop artists too. And that's actually where I started purchasing charter. That's where I had the opportunity to fly on charter. And that's where I had the opportunity to really start researching the ins and outs of the private aviation space. And there's so much information out there, and especially 10 years ago, where we didn't have ChatGPT and we didn't have all this information. So I really took a deep dive into the industry, and I realized that it needed some fixing and some clarity. And that's really how I got into it.
EDM is often on private because they're like playing a club until 6 a.m. and then they have to play somewhere else that next day, right? They're usually flying private. That's so interesting. How cool that that's kind of your first step into it. So you started researching it. Then when was the moment that you started Meiley Aviation?
So I started Meiley Aviation in 2020. And that was probably 5 years after I'd been in the industry. I'd worked for one of the largest European brokers. They had came into the United States and purchased my partner David Young's company and I was in charge of running the New York office. So I did that for about 5 years. And as soon as the pandemic hit, I just needed a little bit of change. My thought process was, charter isn't always the exact solution for all of the flyers. And I wanted to be a solutions-driven company, and that's also what we've brought into TrueSkies as well. So I ran Meiley Aviation for 5 years with a small team, and our primary goal was finding solutions for client, whether that's charter, whether that's jet cards, or whether that's full aircraft ownership.
And can you please break that down? What's a jet card?
Well, I can explain that to you.
Yeah.
Jet cards think of it as a timeshare. You get a specific amount of time allotted to you that you pre-purchase. And to get a little bit more deeper into that is you have jet cards that are, asset owned. So companies that own the jets. And then you have jet cards where companies don't own the jets. And really the difference between those two types of programs, what we would call products programs, is the companies that own the assets, their job is operationalizing those airplanes to make them money. So it's not necessarily about, how much can they sell, but it's how can I position these planes with the least amount of repositioning as possible? Well, how can my utilization rate be as high on these planes? And then to the contrary, these companies that sell jet cards that don't own the assets, unfortunately, the client becomes a P&L. Where sometimes they might be buying it at a certain price and making a ton of money on it because the aircraft's in great position. But it could be the opposite fold where the aircraft's not in good position. They've promised their client a certain price, so they're willing to lose it on certain trips. So that client becomes a P&L, and that's really where we saw the issue. And that's where TrueSkies Reserve really became our product.
Talk about that. Go into TrueSkies Reserve. Interesting.
TrueSkies Reserve, it's a practical solution. In charter, we buy at one price and we sell at another price.
Okay.
Your brokers don't always need to tell you exactly what they make on the flights, but we make between 10 and 20%.
Okay.
And with TrueSkies is we're able to let you know, hey, we're buying this aircraft at wholesale at this price. And if you're willing to give us a commitment up front, we're willing to tell you what that price is and give you a fixed service fee.
Even with potential delays, mechanical issues, and anything that would extend that time, how do you guys deal with that? Is that something that you guys take on?
Well, just like NASA, when weather gets into your way, those are some things you can't control.
Yeah.
So there are some things that are out of our control, but the things that are in our control, we do very well.
Wow.
Whether it's vetting the crew, it's vetting the operations, or whatever really goes into that mission and that specific mission, it's really all dependent. I mean, at the end of the day, aircrafts are machines and machines break. And that's why we have TrueSkies Trip Protection as well.
Let's get into it. Go ahead.
TrueSkies Trip Protection will basically guarantee your aircraft up to 100% of the cost that you purchase your aircraft for. So say you're flying from New York to California and you spend $50,000 on that aircraft breaks on you. That allows us to have $100,000 to find you a replacement aircraft of the same caliber or better.
So TrueSkies also has a presence in South America. And you have a lot of experience down there. You lived in Brazil, Argentina. What brought you down there? Tell me about that experience.
Brazil, and South America in general, is one of the largest growing aviation markets in the world. Maybe not by volume, but by percentage. 10 years ago, it'd be very difficult to find a Gulfstream to charter down there. Now we have Gulfstreams, we have Bombardiers, and we have Embraer. Embraer is a manufacturer based in Brazil and one of the fastest growing manufacturers as well. My experience down there has been buying and selling aircraft, advising operators, even advising a lot of the charter broker community and the aircraft broker community in the United States and really bridging the gap between North and South America.
So how long were you living in South America before, I guess, now you're back up in New York most of the time?
So I still split my time between New York, Brazil.
Okay.
Very rarely get to spend time in New York where home is, but I'm 25 minutes from Teterboro, 25 minutes from White Plains, and people who fly in our industry know those are very common areas to fly.
Got it.
I snowbird down to Brazil.
Genius.
Yeah.
I'm visiting. That's so cool. Do you remember a big client, or, you know, maybe if it was with Meiley or if it was with TrueSkies, with a client that you're like, damn, this is exactly what I'm supposed to do. This is what I've learned over the years, that I'm in the right position to be doing this?
You know, there's been a few of those moments, and, you know, the one that pops into my head specifically, and, you know, it's sometimes not all glitz and glamour in private aviation. You know, there's been a lot of rescue missions that I've done throughout the years, specifically in the Caribbeans.
What do you mean?
Back in 2018, I forgot the hurricane's name, but it did some tremendous damage down in Puerto Rico. And we were able to not only send supplies and goods down there with some of the airplanes, because there weren't any airplanes there to bring people out. So you'd have to bring airplanes from other places into the country to get people, to get other, you know, animals. I remember was a big thing that we were doing as well. We had the idea of, you know, when these catastrophes happen, or when these, you know, these event happens in some of these remote places that don't have the most resources, is we'll bring the resources in on the aircraft, and then we'll bring the passengers out on that same aircraft as well.
Wow. I bet that was a moment of, hell yeah, I'm supposed to be doing this. That's so cool. And then getting into entertainment, were you always, when you're working in aviation, always in entertainment, or were you in different, with private clients? I guess, where is the majority of your time?
You know, I'd say I split my time 50-50, maybe between the entertainment industry and some of, you know, some of the private clients, some Fortune 500 companies, some family offices, and some just general high net worth individuals.
Yeah.
You know, where I've come into the entertainment space is, you know, I had the experience with working with some of the hip hop groups, some of the EDM acts, and, you know, where I've really been able to, you know, connect the dots within the aviation world and the entertainment world is working with some of the larger acts that, you know, David has inherently worked with for a long period of time, and going into South America, going into Asia, going into Europe. You know, we don't just have the experience of going back and forth from the East Coast to the West Coast, from New York to Florida. You know, we really have a global presence, and that's really where I kind of find a good foothold between our partnership. It just creates a really good synergy. So, you know, same thing with how all industries are always evolving, is there's always new people, always new talent coming up. And, you know, my job is bringing up some of these younger artists and supporting some of those legacy acts that we've had for decades. What
would you say is the main thing that separates you guys from other brokerages and operators?
That's a good question. You know, it's always hard to say the people behind the business, but it really is the people behind the business. You know, myself and David are pretty well known within the aviation community. And we're just known as transparent and good guys.
Yeah.
You know, just this morning you saw us with, you know, a handful of other brokers who we do compete with in the space. But we have those relationships where we want to make the space better, not only for the entertainers, but for the industry as a whole.
Yeah.
Because it's an unregulated industry. And, you know, the more transparent, the more honest that we can be within it, and not only to our clients, but to our peers.
Yeah.
You know, it comes to the theory of, you know, rising tides, you know, raises all ships.
How big is TrueSkies right now?
TrueSkies right now, we have roughly 6 people that sell for us.
Okay.
We have a back office in Columbus that's about 15 people.
Dang.
So we're roughly about a 20-person company at the moment.
Okay.
So there's been some fast growth.
My goodness. Yeah. Where do you hope to be in 5 years?
5 years from now is, you know, it's hard to project because, you know, we're not looking to be the biggest company. You know, a lot of times, you know, people focus on growth, people focus on size, where I think our goal and our vision is to focus on quality and focus on the right people. You know, it can be a little bit of an oversaturated industry. There's a lot of people that are fighting for the same clients. And, you know, what's important for us is we're working with the right clients that really want the right solutions and, you know, not necessarily the best price, but the best value.
Yeah.
And people often get price and value mixed up.
I'm sure if you're in this space, you know there's a certain cost to it. And there's a certain cost to, you know, what would you put under the umbrella of what they're really paying for?
Flying private is a time machine. I mean, having the luxury of pulling up to an aircraft opening your door, getting your luggage loaded on, taxiing off is a win all of itself.
Yeah,
We've all
man.
flown commercial before. Flying to Nashville, I had to wait in security for an hour while they checked my bag. You think about, that aspect of it, where you're saving 2 hours pre-flight and 2 hours post-flight. And then you also think about, the actual direct flights that these commercial carriers offer. It doesn't mean that, just because you're in Nashville and you have a show somewhere in Idaho, that you can get there nonstop. You might have to take 2 or 3 different commercial flights to get there.
Usually not. Yeah.
There's a certain price point on everybody's time. And it's a really hard formula to calculate, and sometimes it's quantitative, sometimes it's qualitative, but it's a time machine. I mean, I had a client that was flying from, North Carolina to Foxwoods where she had a show, and they could have done it commercially and it would have been a 13-hour day for them, or they could have done it privately and we ended up making it a 3-hour travel day for them.
Well, that's actually, I'm talking a lot to artist managers about that, where they're saying, okay, travel days are not off days. And so it's really tough for these artists and for the crews to be like, all right, well, when different, booking agents, when they're planning the routing, they're like, okay, well, it's a travel day. This is their day off. Then they can have a show. It's like, dude, that's not a day off when it's a 13-hour day. Yeah. So that's also like a way that I feel like they can take care of their crew and their artists. Oh, that's so cool. And it just feels special. There's a fruit platter for us. I feel very special.
It's a good
with
fruit
a fruit
platter.
platter, man. Some fresh strawberries on a plane.
Oh,
Bruh.
wait till you get to my pet peeves then.
Tell me right now. Pet peeves. Let's go.
Pet peeves is catering.
Okay.
Catering can be extremely expensive on private jets. It can be extremely wasteful. We understand we don't want people to go hungry, but a lot of times people can overindulge and they think, oh, it's lobster tails, it's, 5-star dining experience. And while some flights do call for that, transatlantic, trans-Pacific flights, when you're flying 10, 14, 17 hours at a time, that stuff can be important. But, for a typical turkey sandwich, what we would consider a box lunch in the industry, you're talking $60 for the cost of that sandwich plus a $50 delivery fee. So if you spread that across 10 people, you're spending $500 for turkey sandwiches, and they're not even going to include the delivery fee for you. So
What was the craziest catering expense that you've witnessed?
I've seen a $9,000 catering bill before. We've had clients that don't know whether they want sushi, don't know whether they want pizza, don't know whether they want organic, don't know whether they want this or that.
So get it all.
And, that's where, we're not going to tell the clients no. What the clients want, the clients can get.
Yep.
And, what we make sure in those types of instances is when the aircraft get onto the ground, we're able to feed the line guys, the guys that were helping us go back and forth to the aircraft yesterday and today and are loading our luggage. So, we also try to give back in those types of circumstances as well. And you have to be careful clearly with, some perishable items and food and liability. But I've seen $9,000, $10,000 catering bills before.
You're telling me that I should be getting into catering. That's what you're telling me.
I know a few people have started catering companies that started off as charter brokers. So,
dude, oh
Yeah.
my gosh, that's the unspoken cost, the crazy cost.
yeah.
What's
And,
another pet peeve?
another pet peeve on the operations side of
Yeah.
aircraft, right? There's something what we call owner approval in the space, right? So there's 2 ways that, aircraft ownership in our space typically happens. They're either owned by the company or by the airline, or they're owned by a specific individual. In that instance, the owner utilizes their aircraft when they want, and when they're not utilizing it, that's when it goes out to the charter market. And one of the most difficult things for us as charter brokers, or for charter brokers in general, is we don't always know who those end users are or how friendly those charter owners are. For a good example of that is, there's certain aircrafts that are notoriously on the charter market that we know or we're never going to get owner approval for. They might price really, really well. They might be in great position to present to a client. But unless you really know and understand the market, hey, listen, maybe I shouldn't present that aircraft to Nikki because I know she's really going to like it. She's going to want to book it. And then I'm going to have to tell her she can't have it.
Yeah. Yeah.
And that's the last thing we want to do. So there's a big dynamic in understanding the owner approval process, the operators that you're working with. And we're lucky enough to have traded and buy and sell aircraft enough that, we typically know these owners, or we know who these owners' brokers are, that can give us honest feedback of, hey, is this aircraft actually owner friendly, or, is it just on the charter market, for one reason or the other?
So I can imagine someone's paying for this VIP experience. So there's a lot of pressure on it, and you guys are responsible for delivering. So how do you go about prepping for this, and what does that look like?
It's a good question, because there's so many different variables within aviation, and it starts off with the client. What does the client want? But, you also have to look at the other factors, is where are we going in the world? There's times that we've gone into, war-torn countries that occasionally have no fly zones, and we have to wait till that airspace gets opened up because there's missiles or there's war going on.
Wow.
So there's a little bit of that goes on. So you really have to understand the dynamic of who the client is, what the mission is, what the purpose of the mission is, because that's just as important as, the equipment that they're flying on. Do they need to make a meeting at a certain time? What is the reason that they're traveling? What is the backup solutions that you guys have in place in order to support, whether it's a mechanical issue where, you're in the Middle East and there's no other aircrafts necessarily around. Or another really good example of it is, if you have a flight at 10 o'clock at night and that aircraft's not, is broken, something that typically happens in our industry is crews typically duty on in the morning and they duty off at night. So if you're trying to scramble for a plane at 10 p.m., chances are you're going to have to pull a fresh crew. And there's very limited amount of people. So I think to answer your question more to the point is, you have to understand your customer. You have to understand the mission. You have to understand the purpose of the mission. And I think from there, you're really able to kind of create a game plan and really execute on the client, because not everything is in our control.
Okay, what are some red flags to look for in other charter operators? Communication
is first and foremost. Whether you're a broker communicating with the client, we have a requirement for our team to respond to our clients in 15 minutes or less.
Wow.
When clients have a question, we need to be able to deliver them the answer. And it's the same thing on the operator side, the people who we work with. If we're not getting answers quick, there's usually something that's going on. And the other thing I think is important to note, especially for end buyers, is, your broker should always be disclosing the tail number to you. And if it is a floating fleet, they should be disclosing who the operator of the aircraft is to you. And before ever signing any type of paperwork, you, as the person who's signing that paperwork, have full authority to get that information prior to signing that contract.
All the things that I know for when I'm flying private all the time. And on a plane, are you a sleeper, reader, worker, or movies?
I'm a sleeper.
Sleeper.
I don't like flying.
What? Hot take.
Hot take.
Hot take, you don't like flying.
I do not like flying, no.
Why?
I'm a nervous flyer.
What?
Yeah. As I've gotten older and I fly more, there's still a little bit there's more comfort in it.
Uh-huh.
And I'd much rather be on an aircraft this size than, say, a smaller aircraft. And yeah, when you're in smaller aircrafts, you really feel a lot, and some people really enjoy that experience and some people don't. And it doesn't mean that it's necessarily unsafe. I just tend to be a little bit motion sick, and it tends to be sometimes a little bit dramatic. So
that's crazy. Thank you so much, Christian, for being on the podcast. This was so fun.
And thank you for having me, Nikki.
All right, we just touched down in Columbus, Ohio, which is where TrueSkies operations are based. So talk to me about where are we standing, what's around us, and what are we doing here?
Well, we're currently in Signature's hangar. And as you can see, we have a Challenger 300 behind us. Challenger 300 would be considered a super mid-sized aircraft, probably most common for our coast-to-coast flights. It's still a stand-up cabin, still gives you the range of 5, 6, sometimes 7 hours. It's also a great aircraft to go from the West Coast to Hawaii as well.
Oh.
Yeah.
Okay. How often are you chartering this type of plane?
This plane, I would say, on average, its category, I would say, is probably about 25 to 30% of our lift. Reason being is because it really can take care of almost any domestic trip within the United States. It's not really till you start to go international where you start to see some of the bigger aircraft.
Got it.
But there's also smaller aircraft that as we start to walk around the hangar that we'll see that can still do some of those missions that this aircraft can do, but they might not have a stand-up cabin.
How many people fit in this one?
Typically in this aircraft, you're gonna see about anywhere from 8 to 10 people, depending on its configuration.
And I can't help but mention, there's a big ass sign up there saying, "Welcome to Goodwin."
That big ass sign?
That big ass sign.
Goodwins are our partners, and what they do for us is they act as our back end office. They gather our clients' quotes and they aggregate them. They allow us to present it, they allow us to pay for them, and they allow us to flight file them as well. So think about how a financial office has everybody executing on their trades and everything else. We have Goodwin executing on our flights and really giving us the support and everything that we need throughout the client journey of everything from request all the way to actually being wheels down on the ground.
All right, so why Columbus?
So Columbus has some rich history in aviation and specifically in executive aviation. Some of the largest companies in the industry still operate and have facilities on this field. And it's also nice to be centrally or almost centrally located within the United States, still about an hour and a half to the East Coast, maybe 2 hours to Florida, and same thing, about 3 to 4 hours to the West Coast as well. So it really gives a good variety of aircrafts to be dispatched.
Can I do a quick test of how quickly you can do the alphabet in airplane speak?
Yeah, absolutely.
A,
Alpha,
B,
Beta,
K,
Kilo,
L,
Lima,
V,
Victor,
S.
Sierra,
I forgot letters. G,
Golf,
S.
Sierra,
Good job. I was trying to trip you up there. Z,
Zulu,
W,
Whiskey,
T,
Tango,
and the hardest one, N.
November.
Good job.
You want to know the fun thing about the N is in the United States, you'll see every single aircraft starts with an N. And that's how you're able to identify that is the origin of where the aircraft is registered. So any aircraft that starts with an N, November, is registered within the United States.
Fun fact.
Fun fact.
Did not know that.
Yeah.
Didn't know most things you've told me today. So
Okay.
that's cool.
All right.
We're a cool company. Goodwin. We're cool. Goodwin. We're cool. Tolga Demirel, the co-founder of Goodwin. Talk to me about Goodwin. When and why did you start this?
Cool, yeah. We started Goodwin about 2 years ago. Me and my other co-founders, our past experience is in insurance. So we built insurance technology. My company was a CRM specifically built for insurance agents. And my partner's business was a commercial marketplace rater specifically built for insurance. And so we became a consumer of private aviation ourselves. And that was during the COVID times when there was a lot of demand and not enough supply. So there was a lot of problems with it going on that as a consumer, you're like, why is this happening? There's a lot of similar patterns that are happening behind the curtain of private aviation and chartering that we solve for in insurance. And so there were 3 things that we saw that really got us excited and said, let's make a play in this space. So number 1 was there's a big revenue market, but it's a tiny community where relationships really matter. Everybody knows everybody. The second thing was that there's technology, but it's highly fragmented. So then the final thing and the most important thing actually, Nikki, was in 2015-ish, hundreds of millions of dollars started to pour in from venture capital to build technology to get rid of an insurance broker. However, that's only true on personal lines. So your home and auto insurance, where it's a little bit more transactional. On commercial lines, where it's high touch, high value, high relationship driven, it's still 99% broker driven. They can't get rid of the broker because of that high touch, high value aspect of it. But nobody's betting on the broker. So our thesis is that the broker's not going anywhere for a long time. So what makes Goodwin a little bit unique compared to other platforms out there is that we're not trying to get rid of the broker. In fact, we're betting millions and millions of dollars that the broker ain't going anywhere. We're making a big bet on the broker.
And that's why people like TrueSkies love you guys.
Exactly, yes. And that's why we love people like TrueSkies.
That is so cool.
Yeah.
Today we're taking you behind.
Got it.
Yeah. First take, baby. Okay. And this is the Gigs Podcast. I'm founder and CEO of Gigs, which is the professional career platform for the live event industry. Perfect. Thank you so much for. Nope. Thank you so much. This has been such a cool
Park
day.
it.
No. No. All the buttons. And what happens if I do this?